Before you dive in, imagine being slapped so hard that the entire school gasps, yet instead of breaking, you rise in a way that makes every bully, every teacher, and even the entire town rethink who you truly are. If you want more jaw-dropping, twist-packed stories like this, hit subscribe and never miss a story that flips the world upside down. Bullies slapped her in front of 200 students, yet no one watching that day realized they were witnessing the moment everything would change, not just for the girl standing at the center of the courtyard with a burning cheek, but for the entire school, the entire town, and especially the bullies who thought they had broken her. Because 14-year-old Maya Asan was not the type who shattered under pressure. In fact, she was the type who transformed pressure into power, though no one knew that yet, not when she stood small and trembling, surrounded by a roaring crowd that treated humiliation like entertainment, a gladiator arena disguised as a school assembly. But let's rewind to the moment it began, the moment the whispers about her started worsening. Maya had always been quiet, the kind of girl who sat in the back of the class drawing intricate sketches while pretending not to hear the rumors that she was poor, weird, pathetic, and dadless, because her father had disappeared when she was 2, leaving her mother struggling to raise her alone after a tragic accident that had put her mother in a wheelchair. Despite all this, Maya excelled academically and artistically, which only fueled the jealousy of the school's most toxic trio, Alyssa, Tanya, and Hira, girls who wore cruelty like perfume and strutted through hallways as if stepping on people was a privilege, and they especially hated Maya because she never reacted, never cried, never gave them the satisfaction they fed on, until the day of the slap in front of everyone, a moment that began when Alyssa, accidentally, spilled juice on Maya's sketchbook, the very sketchbook containing the designs she hoped to submit to the National Youth Art Competition. When Maya asked calmly for an apology, that simple request set flames to their fragile egos, and Alyssa shoved her, Tanya blocked her way, and Hira snatched Maya's bag, culminating in that echoing slap that cracked through the air like a gunshot, freezing the courtyard, making even the birds stop mid-chirp, and for a split second Maya's eyes stung, but not from tears, from the realization that she had nothing left to lose. She didn't scream, didn't slap back, didn't run, instead she did something none of them expected. She straightened up, smiled slowly, and said in a clear voice that traveled across the courtyard, "Thank you, now everyone will remember this moment, not for what you did to me, but for what I'm about to do next," which left the bullies stunned because the girl they always underestimated suddenly looked fearless, almost dangerous, and that afternoon she marched straight to the principal's office, not to report them, but to request permission for something outrageous. She wanted the school auditorium for a student exhibition showcasing the truth of student life. The principal, half curious and half confused, approved it, not knowing Maya had spent years observing everything, sketching everything, bullying incidents, unfair rules, hidden talents ignored by the school, and even teachers turning blind eyes, and she poured all of it into a single masterpiece, a mural taller than any student and wide enough to cover an entire stage wall. For the next week, rumors spread like wildfire that Maya was plotting something huge, something dangerous, something unforgettable, and the bullies panicked, trying to intimidate her into stopping, but every time they cornered her, she simply smiled like someone who had already won. The exhibition day arrived, students buzzed with anticipation, teachers sensed tension, and the auditorium filled beyond capacity, with even parents showing up after hearing whispers of a student rebellion disguised as art. Then the curtains pulled back, and the room fell silent as everyone gazed upon Maya's giant mural, a breathtaking, painful, brutally honest masterpiece that portrayed the school exactly as it was. The bullies were depicted as towering, distorted shadows feeding on smaller figures, the teachers were silhouettes with closed eyes, the students were faceless crowds watching cruelty as entertainment, and at the center, a small girl stood alone receiving a slap, yet instead of falling, she grew wings made of shattered pencils and broken pages, rising above everyone. A phoenix born from humiliation. Gasps echoed, whispers surged, parents demanded answers, and teachers looked horrified because the truth was displayed too vividly to ignore. Then Maya stepped forward and told the entire story, not just of the slap, but of years of torment endured silently by countless students, of her mother working day and night despite disability, of her own efforts to stay invisible just to survive, and how she realized that silence only feeds cruelty. The crowd was stunned, some students cried, several teachers turned pale, and even the bullies trembled, especially when parents started shouting at them, demanding accountability. But Maya didn't stop there. She revealed her plan. She had submitted the mural and the story behind it to the National Youth Art Competition, not for fame, but to represent every kid who had ever been bullied. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. the auditorium doors opened and a group of judges from the competition entered, having been informed anonymously of Maya's exhibition, and after a tense discussion, they announced that Maya's mural was being selected not just for the competition but for a national tour on student mental health awareness, sending shockwaves across the audience. The bullies' parents were furious, not at Maya, but at their own daughters, leading to disciplinary action so severe that the trio lost their social power overnight. The school board enforced anti-bullying programs, teachers underwent training, and Maya became a symbol of courage, but what no one expected was the biggest twist coming next. One of the judges, a tall, well-dressed man named Adrian Zafar, requested to speak privately with Maya and her mother. When they met, he looked strangely emotional, holding Maya's mural photo in trembling hands, and after a long pause he asked Maya's mother a question that seemed to break him. "Is she, my daughter?" A question that struck Maya like lightning as her mother burst into tears, explaining that Adrian had been her love years ago but never knew she was pregnant before the accident that forced them apart. Suddenly, Maya learned the truth. Her father hadn't abandoned her, he never knew she existed, and now he stood in front of her, devastated at the years lost. Maya, overwhelmed, didn't know whether to accept him, but Adrian spent months proving his sincerity, helping her mother get medical treatment, sponsoring school programs, and showing up for Maya daily, not as a wealthy CEO but as a remorseful father desperate for a second chance. Slowly, cautiously, Maya allowed him into her life, and her small family grew into something whole again. As for the bullies, they were forced to publicly apologize at a school-wide assembly, the same courtyard where they slapped her, and this time, the entire school stood behind Maya. She didn't humiliate them back, she simply said, "I forgive you, but I will never forget what I learned from that slap." Silence protects bullies, courage protects everyone else, and the courtyard erupted in applause. The school transformed, Maya's mural became legendary, and the girl who once tried to stay invisible became the voice no one could ignore. Years later, she would go on to win international awards, publish best-selling books, and advocate for students globally, but she always said the same thing in every speech: "My story didn't begin when they slapped me, it began when I decided to stand, and the world listened."